Okay, all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood.
到了东湾的街边上，路边的街边给，头着把当街前边把的就把的街吧，当街街做街。nam ga dai nyam le sam chen tam che de wa dan de dong ra dan de la na me ba yang da ba ra zo be chang jo ren bo je en do ba jiao.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
我的觉得上那些叫我的龙啊，也从给我来过，那些我的龙啊，也从给我来过。对天灵的送的年毛上的总结我的龙啊，也送给我了过。
All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom.
我能给大大两边三千当街，求求的总结的见一个长姐姐，那个son对样的这两当姐姐，我就是吧。
And Jugi.
风波东来姐姐在研究呢，把别跟的当姐姐我到天天在我当就把这姐妹不能的老妈当把弄了。我就是借我也当经过的这老多弄了，就是借我。上街今天的弄了，就是借我。当别就弄了，就是借我。不必跟对弄了，就是借我。把我看作最终。
Azoy.
一些借见到等到弄了，就是借我。
Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path.
将就宁波姐姐，我的三姐弄了就是姐。 in jo dai jiang jiao san ba ye zuo lai di jian jiao zhen jian in jie dai mo jie de jie jie jiang jiao dong ne ji ba dong jiang jiao san bie la ba la de da ren xin ne ba da 安德贤多拉本东对讲究三年节那的呢老巴老人巴贤的老巴人节物。
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
我上街就当走街就能来讲究把了的当内讲人间，大概见所见别所能见，多了边界上街都把手。
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
我能够当面对人间当劫，对我当地位觉当等不来就是劫，东儿当东儿给觉当对我就是劫。东儿没白的我当面对我就接你人家当你当这位
Dong
来你吧就接。
Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Mars, together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception exactly as they are, transcend and conquer together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
本扎罗萨玛扎，本扎罗萨玛扎，本扎罗萨玛扎，马勒什杰根杰贡杰勒杰多德邦杰梅德琼德拉。我那马勒吉贤千九二别，中德国杰。念的了耶娑娑尔冈巴登比维杜维阿罗根根的尼维的
Shabda
巴迪达娑。
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate.
我日夜不觉就见没多长，日拉令夜年的见半的，上界前了没得不我言，这个难道现的就不说。将在我当初见要把东结在也让更显所我也。给我就是大概介绍吧，当街左边将就前不。
Namo, to the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the three realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the five wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love. Precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind. Transcendent conqueror, the one thus gone, foe-destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of two-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaim, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, even then I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain, the one whose renown is evident throughout the three worlds. Protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you, the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one, such as you, among the three levels of existence, is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace. To that one, the one who dwelt at Travasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone. The pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having revealed, having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the three higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha, I also prostrate.
Namo Nase Namda Ke Lama Lai Nase Kirgen Se Choban Bu Kam Sawa Yonder De Sarwa De Korwa Tongdu Se Chenje Lo Ye Ye Narva Zoge Je Ma San Jerme Jarve To Anjembe ye nga dan de zewe dan ye ga de ye ando wa jem je rambo je da sem ye je nga ne so wa de chu ni je nga de chen je lo sem do ne je me nam dan de Anande choga topare chenje loi chon dende di yen yeba rajomba yondoba zobe
Sanjay
Rego doi jobzen denpa devara yeba jiden jenpa Achiven dewa kalo jowa lana meba lata me namje Dongba nyame shai che jarbo shabje de tema meba la Angwa raude dode gwe chanza loi kanza kanye zowo chodam se sa chen de la gongpa de woro ne ngane je den de nan cho je zong Đề đề nghe ba chế lai chọn thế lôi nam đa công ai cho đề su giang wa a yi xie jiang cao se jie lun bo doi zhao bo jie dian song nai lang ye wa
Gombo Jogi
Nye je lai chang tse lun cen jo den bai ten mian da wei xie san do yan da wa je lai chang tse lu de de ju de se bai song nan zi nian mian chen chen je lai chang tse lu min jo de bai ka lu yun je jian Gunjura jingwa jungzi tege nye ambo xe dan nye ye xe lan ge nye yo shoba de la chang zi lu gongbo du je che den ba tam chi chen be dong bo bo so na wa yong den jiang zu xian an de jian ye lai jiang zi lu da bie de jia ji bie ji ye bie nian song le zhe xian jie de dong dan jiu jiu wa xie jiu de jiu lai jiang zi lu
You're
da
doing a
bie
handstand.
wei lang yang dong
Alaba
an da la ra de ge xian ge dang ba yuan de jie gen de la yang jiang zi lu
I prostrate to the youthful Manjushri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom, there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dharmadhatu completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas with the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense. I make offerings to the victorious ones. With the finest cloths, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways, I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. Mm. So then
Peach.
request for the turning of the wheel of Dharma. Oh, the last one. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Semje namje samba tang loye che dai che da che jong de mo de ba ye che je go lo go de zo o dang ge de je xiao jie zong zhong 玄觉灭道对界不讲吧，世界龙波道我的级别个，下界界不小老个讲在，这没我这头接经过了的，没这些见过我切到。当前社会更见求阶级，人民的工人间更讲在，我们就见研究破张的，这种商界更见我。他让什么时候我从东这边，在那边小老更讲在，看到就是冬天几天了，这些龙门了就我看说。天天东北就见桥人别把三把人都我他们今天的些，那么的呀，他也给当了当的这个中到他们也给他们。我感觉这季节怎么他们这个的大概就的。Good morning.
Good morning.
Sofia is like a ballet here today.
Yeah, with daylight savings.
So we thought not so
They're
taking nga yor some
swing
euro.
back. Yeah. We thought it was earlier. We
I
signed
thought pretty
on.
good.
Yeah, we thought we were getting an hour earlier for some reason. Yeah.
티니텐다 단단가 저 ngondu ore da ngondu kinyamne chia keda nga zungu zhou yore tili nire changmian lo ke ti ngondu la tongnang chenpo chi chi tine changma nyam yo na wala tine nga rang ngoni na yang gao chungs da ya cho xian xie ji de nga zu ji nam nian chen jog de wa dang dis chiwo do ti na yang 직 지랑소 들이 공도 냠나 지어라 통랑 첨부 들이 어디더니 말이 배고 오셨어.
But you know, it's just so great to come together and to practice Mundro together. He said he just wants to let you all know how much he appreciates your interest, your sincere interest. He sees that you're all very dedicated and you're really sincere, and it just makes him so happy. And so even though it's like kind of late for us and a little bit difficult time-wise, because you're all like so sincerely interested in practicing Windrow, it's definitely worth it. It's really, you know, a wonderful thing to see.
티니티다 가장 다 제단 지는 가서 다 치노딘 직대 메타와 나주지 심제 메타와 대가나 얘기다 카세고레 랑케트네 다 세메타와 티니 몽보 직당 가서 공구요래 티니다 좀 유디 카르차디오 라위나 가서 직 초직디르 가서 참여게 직 가서 직 투주 등분 로그요와다 대가나 얘기 그 세대메타 인반도 직 당가서 superficial way,로 되는 도지다 하 고유요래 이는 양 고지 가서 디다 고 갈세 거리디 deep root 고 샘게 땡네 고 효침부지 차야기 치돌라 테네직 메타바리 삼베클로지알라 땅아 소직 답시 몽보 땅지 테네 직 베네 치키유 메타와 간디스 조바 탭기도 삼네 테네 직 자체사서 파티디스 너무 좋았어.
Um, So in general, with this topic of impermanence, as you know, we move into reflecting on impermanence, we have these different categories for reflection. So we reflect first on the impermanence of the outer, it's kind of literally said, the outer container that is the universe, or the impermanence of the, that we see in the environment. And then secondly, we reflect on the impermanence of the inner inhabitants, or in other words, the living beings who live in the environment. And then there are different contemplations regarding the impermanence of this life, the impermanence in death, our own inevitable death. And mainly, the objective for these reflections is to really develop a keen sense of the passage, the constant passage, or the constant exhaustion of time. Because we all know the truth of impermanence. There's no argument about it. And we know that impermanence is all around us. But that knowledge is kind of a superficial knowledge. It's like a conceptual knowledge. We know, but we don't really feel the impact of impermanence. We're not really aware. There's some level of like not fully understanding or fully seeing. And so in order to really deeply, for the understanding or the truth of impermanence to really take root in our mind stream, then we have to practice paying attention and noticing impermanence. So we practice, for instance, noticing impermanence in the outer environment. We practice noticing the impermanence of sentient beings. We really contemplate the truth of impermanence and death until it's something that really takes root.
어다 대가나 이게 당어 조sam노 the most important part careers나 당어 좀 메타와리샤 다직 도고레 테네 가서 신도 요레 다 대양 도고레 당어 저 게인도 요리 도고레 티 samnote 당고 요 말이스.
But most importantly, we need to understand that the effect of this contemplation should not be that we become depressed, like that we think, that we feel, oh my gosh, everything is pointless. This, we're gonna die and this is terrible. We're getting old and this is terrible. So there's not this, that's not the objective.
어다 티니 당어 저디 가래 고고 요르스나 지 테러와 메타와 하코나 테네 가서 람가 틸라 가르세나 meaningful rotobia arwa meta ba rindu zamba meta ba indu tene chi tanye chi gugdo zambi ko chi karse gore meta ba de samno yaboji tambina nga zo tini do re do wa tine chi mota do ji imina ta engine gas yuna tene ko mota ta mo do to gro wa o tena yi ki ko di meta wa tinga zo mota tele gas no re istini nga zo karchi go wa ko nipan ro ji laptop go re is tema to be ki nga zo ke ji meta wa de ya bo ji ha ma go wi na tene nga zo chu che ya ke energy ro ji da ko nipan ro ji tene laptop go ma ro wa tindi indu ko meta wa ha ko wa de ga ra na ga wa ji to wa ji ro wa ta meta wa ri ha sam ban ro ji tindi indu tene 디효 되게 지금 메타바 리도 로지 삼미나 라와 테네 지 남주기 제촌 리게 토라 테네 지 차바다 테네 셴바 라와 테디 스네 다 뇽로 거래 다 참랭 가서 다 원에 지네 나 다다 문다
So, what is it then, like what kind of effect is it that it should have? If we really understand the truth of impermanence, then the effect of that is that then we really are resolute in pursuing a meaningful path, because we think we don't, there's a sense of urgency, like we don't have time. Everything is impermanent, and so we really need to get to it. We really need to focus on what's important. It's so like in the example of a car that's filled with gas. Like if a car has gas, then it can go a far distance. But if it's the gas that provides, the power. It's literally the fuel. And so in the same way, it's the understanding of impermanence that becomes like the fuel for our Dharma practice. And then instead of quite the opposite of having a feeling of feeling sad and depressed, we actually are given more inspiration by this understanding of impermanence. In fact, we become we really enjoy it brings more enjoyment, and together with that enjoyment, real dedication to the practice. And so also as a result of really understanding impermanence, it naturally counteracts suffering, because there is less fixation and grasping to the things of this life, because we understand their impermanent nature.
다 ngazo 다 망치 지 탄다 ngazo 다 particular 리 오지 메타와당 되네 지 레전드 다고 지 샴페 또 하고기 어려와 ngazo 뭐네 항상 잠지메 차브레스 테마토비 다 안가시 저지 랜드 당 메타와당 틴데 대가나 얘기 지 가서고 레다 지 셴벤 메나 랑진지 쇼쳔보로와 틴데 요베 가블라트니 지 소체쇼 등가 소간이 용세게 때와디 틴데 지 딱바 인번라고 지로와
Kare sewa kare tapa
딱바 인번라고 지
kare tapa.
오다 딱바로 베나 고 베나
The
나미나
Hegel
고가 나그마리 좀 딱바 인번라고 서모당 되로와 틴데 지 bena magic business dawjina business ko pe takwa imba yabo imba dawji khata te yowe kabla tene ko takwa marba business takwa mare metse thana na mina ji ma na zigirwa oda tene yang ko thana dubo yona tene dubo te takwa marwa ko dewo yongurwa tene je jiri tene ko ji meta wa ha ko bina ko metse ndi na ne rawa flexible rawa ko meta와리 sambandawoji tene ti인도 ko metawa tiki ji daden zimbate kali dis chonrogdo angit
So we're all practitioners, and we're familiar with many of the Dharma concepts already. Like we're familiar with impermanence, we're familiar with karma cause and effect, we're familiar with objectives such as developing altruistic intent, the mind that wishes to benefit others. And so this some give me kappa kare.
tene ha ko wata zamjime chawrawa
So the fact that we
normal everybody
know
know that
those things already is kind of it's really amazing, because many people are not well acquainted with such topics, and or have very little understanding. So these understanding karma cause and effect, understanding impermanence, having the ability to generate the mind that is focused on the welfare and benefit of others, kind of naturally requires a diminishment of fixation. Because if there's strong grasping, when for instance we don't have very strong altruistic intent, when we're really focused, like there's a lot of self-centered focus, this is often because of a lack of understanding of impermanence because we are taking so much to be permanent. And so we have these expectations that we can sort of create what we want and have it stay that way. So like, our business, if our businesses, we work so hard, to make things go the way we want them to. And if our business is going well, there's this expectation that it will remain that way, that it's permanent. Or if we're healthy, there's sort of this expectation that we're just, we're not going to get sick, we're healthy. And this is this mistake and grasping to kind of, trying to hold on to some sense of permanence, when really the reality of the fact is everything is completely unreliable. So even if things are going well for a time, those things can change very easily. Or, one moment we feel things are going very well, things are going the way we want, the way we expect. And then the next moment, something is going not so well. And so we really see that there's nothing to hang on to. And so when there is that deep rooted sense of impermanence, then there's more acceptance around those ups and downs. And we are more flexible, meaning we accept, what the fluctuations that come in life, because we know this is just nature. This is how things are. This is the truth of impermanence, that there really isn't anything that we can hang on to or expect to remain the same.
Tiga na kita telah mesti penang tu tak kangen ro di yubi na yang
Oh, yeah.
kangen ti yang ko
Mm.
impermanent.
And this is not just the case for things that we are going well turning to unfavorable circumstances, but also the other way around, when things are not going well, when we have hardship, when we have difficulty, when there are things that are causes of suffering, those things also change because of the nature of impermanence. They don't remain that way forever.
Benda ngaco ta hakugres ngaco nayona naza chagi yores.
So we get
Ina yang benda chong ro ya bo miwina chong ya bo yung yores. Tanda yang ko be sha mo miwina yang ko be sha so yores. Ti indi ko ti tindi ki indi ti chikta chama kun jorbe kra yi. Tindi ji tini hako na tini ngaco ta karsina ko ya bo chona chibore rawa ko jono gure. Ina yang til attachment chi ya yo mari. 근데 누구 정비나요? 다 휴직 be said. 너는 자기가 말했어. 거기까지는 요래랑 이러와.
So, like if we're sick, eventually, we get better, or even in the experience of that illness, there are times where we experience relief, or where the pain is very acute, and then when it subsides, and when our business, our work is not going well, and then something shifts, and then things are going really well, or we are not making enough money, and then all of a sudden there's an influx of money, and so these are the natural fluctuations in life that come, because of the truth of impermanence. And so when we really understand that, there's less attachment. So we're not as easily excited when things are going well, or we don't get really attached. And we're also not as depressed or sad when things are not going well, because we know that it is temporary. It will also change. So there's more equanimity with regard to the ups and downs, the fluctuations of, difficulty and hardship, or success and well-being in our lives.
어다 비가 나지 게 되네. 아, 배는 가서 용몽바. 또 가서는 가서 용몽바도 zor라양. 쇼 첨부 요러와. 되네. 용몽바 배는 해당하다 지 달라 때네. 되네. 지 치유게 배다는 원등이 다리 세야는 오지 되네. 가서 semgu 요러와. 아, 리디네요. 가서 마다바 하거나 뭐 다 마다와이 러와 되는데 되네. 고니마지 저거 차스기리라야 고조원로 tene yamate ko tene pechena tene zungdo wa omajigla tene daji yoris yawa tene dat ko sigo ta ko sigo samne tene pe tapar samu bang yorwa inte nimaje ko meta wa khando je ko ji tene te lamati ke o lamati sa ta ko so tene o date chorasi go yo maris ro tene da ko
Lama kitunda kare.
da ko hindo gre slabdo oda tini irimeta tawa hako na tini koji karsa go nyongmongbe keta yu ji henba inari nangwa inari tene tela ji flexible chagosa desu.
So it's the same way, you know, also with the afflictive emotions, there's less, um, they become less hardened and or rigid, because there's less fixation in the mind because we're not really hanging on to kind of the idea of permanence around whatever objects or causes that we're attributing to our afflictions. So for instance, if we are really angry at someone, then when there's not an understanding of impermanence, then we latch on to the object, the person that we see as the cause of our anger, and we make that person a permanent enemy. But when we understand impermanence and we know that there's no permanent, there's no reality to kind of that concept of someone as an enemy, that they might be an enemy in that moment, but that can shift, you know, in the next moment they can become a friend. So we have less hardened concepts regarding the outer objects that often become what we attribute as the cause to our afflictive emotions, our afflicted mind states, because there's just less grasping. And so the afflictions too become more flexible. They come, but we also can let them go more easily. So there's the story of somebody who was really angry. They hated this enemy, and they were so consumed and obsessed with wanting to, kill their enemy. And they met this lama who told them, why do you want to try to kill your enemy? Your enemy is going to die on
You
his
don't need to
own.
kill them.
You don't need to kill your enemy. And somehow that triggered this understanding of impermanence for that individual, and they overcame their anger by understanding the truth of impermanence. So if we have the text from Data Trivadi or Shimbadi? Yeah, so
Yeah, we sending the text, right?
like the new one or the
new.
Oh, okay. Yeah, did it.
Okay, you can read.
네, 공소를 저희는.
Okay.
So maybe we can have also, if you all would like, we can just go paragraph by paragraph, and I can just call on people if that works. So maybe how about Sharon, would you mind reading the first paragraph?
Okay. As it is often said, authentic Dharma is virtuous in the beginning, it is virtuous in the middle, and it is virtuous in the end. For that reason, it is so important and beneficial to devote our lives to study, contemplation, and meditation. While it might be realistic, I'm sorry, my eyes are so blurry from my sinuses. While it might be unrealistic to give up the activities of this life completely and spend our whole lives in solitary retreat, we still make aspirations such as bless me to spend my life in retreat and bless me to develop renunciation. Our life is quickly running out and we cannot halt time, but if we continually practice whatever our circumstances, then we can make our previous human life meaningful, our precious human life meaningful by taking hold of the opportunities available to us.
Thank you.
Och det är du Theravada kontinuerna ger tene da jetang dambi kichu de za chenpo res da ri tin na yang da nga tsu ji me tse la tene samro di ma to bi na yang ji ki kar se na tere da da thong de ma sam de ya tere wa te kar se na nga to da dambi chu de la za chenpo res nga tsu nyam len chi bi na tene tati kar se na chu korang ki ji thomar gyawa thamar gyawa rawa 라고 이나야 추티 가르팽 걸서나 가서 오마는 가서 팽게리 야 다다발레 팽게리 되네 마음발레 되네 팽게로와 뭐 틴리 팽게 요와텔라 되네 지 섬노 땅지네 다 단단 가서 투주 베나 투주 데 고지 미질란 섬도 마중미나야 그때 자 침부들라 되네 지 지지네 두조 강용 같더라. 되니 냠나지야 돼. 되니 개체 모인사레스.
And so, if in first here, really understanding how precious the Dharma is, then we will be inspired to practice. And so, as it says, and it is often said, the Dharma is virtuous in the beginning, it's virtuous in the middle, and it's virtuous in the end. And so, virtue here is also like synonymous with benefit, meaning that there is benefit whenever and however we engage in Dharma practice, in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. And so, even if we can't dedicate our lives like 100% to constant formal Dharma practice and retreat, for instance, when we really understand the benefit of the Dharma, then we are determined to bring all of our experience onto the path of practice, and to practice however and whenever and in whatever ways are available to us in the moment, any chance that we get. And so, also.
我的点率开始呢，我做的da tere do wa开始呢ji flexible wa mitindi kinane ji go zamno tambi na yang ji ko sem ke tene ji klobo yunya ta leo yunya de tambi chu des ta tanda ga so be ya da one example in the method of ji ha ko vina ene ji dis ji pa yi ke ji nyom ba thang go non do go spen nam ji he dang cha ho lang sa de la yang se zam ji he dang shu chen bo me wa ji ta be na yang wo la ko attachment lo be na something else issue your attachment la bena choa ji men do ina ta thambon do ji la pe ta ji ngani cha de ge la ne permanent hi ma do samo dang ge wa ta dang ge ina yang ko permanent yo ma wa tine kar se na ji separate cha du tine pe ka ngi yong do wa o ti ni tine ji me ta ha ko na o ta ko ji du je se ya ji do wa 두제리 고 당본 두근두그래 고지리 고 메타와랑 이리 체게 예산비 로요나 근데 다가 저지 love ones로 직자와 요사 파마이나리 보이나리 다 참랭가 저지 도바 요 말이 티니야 도바 미신도라 티리강이 티비 까블라 테네 지 메타리 로지 삼비나 테네 타잠지 강이 로지 용구요 말이스.
So, what really comes with understanding impermanence also is flexibility. So, this flexibility really can help us to have a happy life, because we become more relaxed and at ease. There's less grasping, less tension, less fear of loss, because we understand impermanence. And it also becomes much easier to work with the afflictive emotions, to control the afflictive emotions, because again, we see the truth of impermanence, and this helps us to have less grasping around whatever it is that is causing the affliction to arise, whether it's an object of anger, someone who has mistreated us, or that someone whom we're angry at, or same with attachment. Attachment brings lots of issues. At first, when, for instance, a couple comes together, or somebody gets married, a husband and wife, and there's the thought like, this is forever, this is permanent, and when there's that really strong grasping to the permanence of it, then when there's separation, either through a breakup or somebody dies, then there's tremendous suffering, because there's so much attachment, there's so much expectation, that this was going to be forever, this was going to be for life. And so when there is an understanding of impermanence, then there's less suffering when these sudden losses come, these unexpected changes, because we know, this is the truth of impermanence. All compounded things are the nature of impermanence. So loved ones, parents, children, when we have to part, when there's some loss, of course we don't want this, but when those things happen, as they inevitably do, then there is less suffering if there is a deeper understanding of impermanence, because there's acceptance.
되게 interesting. One example.
Mhm.
되게 가서 다 고거리스. Nature change 임바 permanent 임바 배낭가서 뭐 참이게 다 really 고거리스. 가라가 고글람나 되네 배낭가서 season와 되네 다 배낭군가로 차기요나 다 단다 배는 summer fall 지보요나 지보 요리 디네요 다 군가 차기로와 이런 가서 군가 차기요 고거리스와 고요리 되는 가서 다데 고 가서 오다 군가 차기리 차과 차기리 가자기리 다 스노스톰 용그리 로직에 가서 고그로와 티 고 펜도 카리얼라비나 다 직 스노스톰이네 차과차비나 흉그리 럽디 댕도고 캔 핸들와 이네 케시가 저티니 고그 미비나 베네메타와세나리 군가르레비 약간 expecting 미비나 테니 사야 기능이 열와 어저배 가지 잡나 간지 시고다 가지 잡서나 배 차화차나 간지 지고래 스노스톰레나 간지 지고와 타티니 타티 어저 고히와 남주 고데와데 에 라페 자지타 어저 자 쳔보 대기부 마인 방가서 고나 테네 어저 가서 flexible 자기 요소레스
So it's interesting, he said, because, a lot of also understanding of impermanence is
We know
it's just about like being prepared. So for instance, like we know, if you think about the seasons, we are fully aware of the fact that the seasons will change. So if, for instance, we live in a climate that's really cold, and we really enjoy summer, we really enjoy fall, we don't particularly want it to become winter, but we know it's going to become winter. And with winter, there will be ice, there might be snow, snowstorms, it's going to be very cold. And so we know that. And what's the benefit of knowing that? Then we can handle it because we're prepared. We know what to expect. We know that winter is coming, and we're not going to be just like totally unable to handle it. But if we didn't know that winter was coming, and then it came with like ice and snowstorms, and then it would be really hard to handle, because there was like this, it's completely unexpected. And so in that way, that kind of awareness of impermanence, it makes us prepared in such a way that we can handle things. We can handle impermanence when it strikes. We're more flexible, our mind is more expansive and less rigid. And so therefore, unexpected difficulties are less painful or not as difficult to deal with.
Okay, so now maybe read again.
Okay, so we'll read again.
Read more.
Okay, so I'll just read this short passage and then someone can read the next one. If we really understand how quickly time is passing, we will feel a deep sense of urgency to make use of our time and not let it go to waste. When that sense of urgency is present, this is a sign of understanding the truth of impermanence. So then now we begin with the second section, which is the impermanence of the inner inhabitants. Janelle, would you mind reading that first paragraph?
We can
Okay.
easily see many examples of the impermanence of the beings who inhabit the outer world. All living beings, regardless of how grand and majestic they may be, elephants or whales who inhabit the sea, tigers and grizzly bears, they all succumb to the truth of impermanence and must experience the decline of aging and eventual death. Some species of animals, such as the Galapagos tortoise, may have relatively longer lifespans, but they too are bound by the truth of impermanence and eventually die.
Thank you.
Da dire ba. Re da nga to samre nga to samno tangdu. Nga to jigur ma jibo marwa. Da bene animal to so pa top stavi na. Tini hansa ka top chembo tini yore sirwa. Hansa ke hu chembo, top chembo, ngarbo bene da trek lo loyan lo. To samno tang hansa ke top chen tini yore simje shembala defeat. Titunga tini yore ina ya temba mandawa. 네, 가히 심장 가히야. 이체릉보도 섬그리 티네 체릉보리람네. 뭐 해야 매죠. 그러면도 어디니 참마 고다 내추럴 텐디리 리도와.
So, it's not only our own lifespans that are impermanent, it's also helpful to really see how all of the other beings, the living creatures, animals, and, there's some animals that are really strong and powerful, that are really mighty and are, like really powerful predators like tigers, lions, that are really strong and yet they're also, it's not like they are everlasting. They also have to, their bodies decline with age, they eventually get sick, they eventually die. And no animals really live all that long. There are some creatures who have like, longer lifespans than humans, but not many, and not for so long. Even still, they also, are bound by the truth of impermanence, and it's not like they're not subject to death. They too experience the decline of the physical body and aging and death. This is just natural.
Interesting 도와 다 가서 베나 치히드 직 샤크 직 추넌도나 항상 가서 로투 말람사 히그와. 메이나
So like,
이나 양고 로투 부여와. 이나 거야. 근데 요리디 히그와. 이나 제위도 베남나나 포로 그래. 가서 놈 포르투 말와. 이나 양 텐디 누파 남베 포리아가 제 텐디 요리디 이나 양 저네 신로 요리스.
So some animals that, they have really special powers, like sharks and fish, they can like swim in the water really fast and live underwater. Humans can't breathe underwater. They can't live underwater, like swim with that agility in the water. So they have like this special power, in a way. And same, like birds, they can fly through the sky, but they're still, even those sort of unique qualities or powers don't mean that they are not subject to the same impermanence. They too, like, die.
Maybe reading.
Okay, so we can read again. So maybe let's see. Did I say Valerie? Do you want to read the next paragraph?
Smaller creatures, like many species of flies and insects, have very short lifespans and only live for a matter of weeks or days. We can witness creatures like caterpillars demonstrate a miraculous display of impermanence as they withdraw into cocoons and soon become beautiful butterflies for only a short time before they shed their wings again and die.
Thank you. Next one.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll keep going. Right. Yeah. Alana, would you like to read the next paragraph?
Perhaps nowhere do we feel this truth of impermanence more keenly than in our own relationships with the animals who share our homes and hearts. We watch our pets grow from playful puppies or kittens to dignified old age, becoming less and less active, growing more tired, eventually becoming ill, and then suddenly dying. Every time this happens, the shock of loss strikes deep, even though we've always known the day would come. We are reminded of their absence for some time as we grieve. The empty food bowl, the unused leash, the suddenly quiet morning routine.
Thank you
Sorry?
for letting love you, Mimi. And then the last paragraph, Patty, would you like to read?
In this way, we can see time is very precious, and we have to be very careful not to let our precious time be lost in state of carelessness and distraction or meaningless endeavors. We should be careful not to waste even a fraction of moment and try to always remain focused on what is truly meaningful in this life, reflecting again and again on the impermanence of the inner inhabitants. We can direct our thoughts, words, and deeds in the direction of authentic Dharma.
Thank you.
다 뒤인데 가서다 너도 휴이나 다다 가서 하고야 되게 된 네가 삼지 매차버리스 티니 타니 콘티바나 예레 가서 시즌데 하고요레 하고 좀 센터디네 시즌 칸디요나 캔더 치토고로와 어티인데 제가 나 이게 지 like on life 이나데 family 이나데 relative 이나데 animal 이나데 인데 tsolata ko higi yowa tang, gegi yowa tang, tene ri ti yina yang, ko jik sem do da, tene ri ko gana nga so season na yo, season yerka yungre, gunga yungre, enda uji yo na tene, nga so tele jik karsa ko tazam jik tene, kanyi yomarwa ko jik, ko nature ya wo tene do uji ko da, tene ki ha koya chi tola tene, nga so matawa de, jik pendo chenpo res.
So in brief, to reflect on the truth of impermanence and to come to more deeply understand it, to have kind of an intimacy with this truth of impermanence is really inconceivably powerful, because it becomes something that again really helps us to handle the inevitable losses in life, whatever it is that comes, the ups and downs, just like the seasons, when we have no
Very well,
like we know very well the truth of the changing seasons, and so we're able to handle them as they present themselves. And so when we reflect on impermanence, and then it becomes sort of like this same type of understanding and acceptance that we have with regard to, say, like the changing seasons. So when it comes to our own life, the ups and downs of our own life, when it comes to, impermanence in our family life, with our relatives, with our animals and loved ones, then eventually we are able to weather these changes kind of with as much acceptance as we do, for instance, with the changing seasons. And there's less difficulty, there's less hardship as a result, because we understand that it is just nature.
What team that gonna go benefit double Drupon yoris karsena ji ngacho di ha mago wina tene ngacho tele ka said be dungi orwa tene sem pamba sem shomba tene ji be tiyungu yoris tindi ji sem shomde be ka wina tene ngacho ji ningje yang je matoba rawa Tigana yiketa, jik simja yemba hesonwando, nadewala nga sujo robachi matawya, monam ja matawya, tini yungu yoris. Yina nga su rang yike tini jik tini, impermanent samdi ko tini, tini nga su ta set, ngiyung marwa. Dungi mewe kaawla, dungi tangta, depression kani na ti yungu mari, tini mayungwe kaawla, tini nga su ta pen totobya, tini ba yoris. Nga su kumona jaya ki,
Están enseñanza todo el día, ellos están como en un retiro con Dalai Lama,
장적 senjayaki
veo a los maestros recibiendo las enseñanzas. Están molidos.
어디 장적 senjayaki tene tindi nipa yores tindi tene 대하고 그래서
And so the benefit also like doubles and triples, because if we don't understand impermanence, then when we, like if somebody, for instance, is sick or suffering that we love, then mostly we're overwhelmed by our own suffering. We're really sad, we're suffering. And so because there's so much grief, personal sadness, then it is more difficult to really be focused on benefiting the other, really benefiting and helping and serving the one who is in need. So, if, for instance, somebody is dying or somebody is ill, it becomes, when we're really overwhelmed by our own grief, it is more, difficult, or we're not as capable of actually generating compassion, or focusing on saying, like praying for the other person, doing practice, and really, like, we don't have the power and the ability to be of real assistance and benefit. And so when there is like a deep understanding of impermanence, there's less sadness, and we're not as overwhelmed by our own suffering. And so then we become really capable in our ability to benefit, to be of benefit, to help. We have more power, we have more energy, we can direct our efforts towards practice and prayer, and really sending, helping that the individual who is dying or who is sick. And there's more potential, there's more ability or kind of power, energy to generate bodhicitta.
걔네다 가정지라 여러
Yeah, so we had a couple of assignments last time, and we saw that some of you shared some really beautiful reflections in the chat. And then also there was the assignment to kind of make a log of things that you notice in the outer world, or to write some notes about what you notice as signs of impermanence in the world around you. So with the last week's reflection of contemplating the impermanence of the the outer container, or the universe, or the world, the environment. So is there anyone who would like to share some of those things that you noticed, some notes? Patty? Yeah, or mhm.
Yes, I'd like to share an observation, just to sort of check in and see if I'm missing something. But in thinking about impermanence, is it not essential to have impermanence to allow us to even like go for enlightenment? Because if we didn't have impermanence, like we can ride the change into something better, but if everything was fixed and permanent, then we wouldn't have a chance. We'd just be stuck in confusion. Yeah.
Definitely yes. Re ta nga tsu di karsina tanda nga tsu di korwe na lo re cho. Karsa nga zom te dikwa ti yorwa. Nga tsu kata zom ti wa ti na re. Sina nga tsu ta permanent na. Ta nga tsu samsara kadu ina samsara ra di kya re wa. Ina yang ko te meta wa yin bi jim chen te la den. Sanji gi re. Nga tsu chao zi chenpo tong to to gi re, top se gi re. Tene 동반이 동도 특별히 마고나 되네 릴레즈 랩세기로와 리 그토 맞죠 야보레서
Absolutely, that's a wonderful observation. And it's definitely the case. And that is also what Drupon Rinpoche says he was getting at in his own reflection that he wrote about, because of the truth of impermanence, samsara can be transformed into nirvana. If there were no impermanence, then everything would be permanent and we would just be stuck in samsara with no way out. But that's not the case. Our obscurations can be purified. We can awaken to Buddhahood. We can realize Mahamudra. We can realize the truth of emptiness. And all of this is only possible because of the truth of impermanence.
That's very good. Pity.
Lisa, I think I saw that your hand was raised and I just heard your voice, but
I think that was somebody else's voice.
Oh, okay.
But I'll go ahead at some point. Let whoever it was go first.
Was that somebody else? Oh, was it Chris? Or no? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, well, we talked about seasons and changes, and as fellow Floridians, we have hurricane season here. So when Milton came, I was faced with this, okay, I'm going to evacuate. Well, what do I pack? Okay, I packed like I may not have a home to return to, because we know that so many people all over the world suffer from these natural disasters and they lose everything they own. They lose their lives, they lose loved ones, they lose belongings and structures and everything. So I'm actually glad I packed like I may not have a home to return to, because I am displaced currently because of the hurricane, and I'm happy to be where I am, but it'll be a while before I can go home again. I'm very grateful to have a home still and to still have my life. But had I not left there, I might not be alive. So for me, the big one on impermanence is the destruction that all these natural disasters do, and they come very quickly. Especially with things like tornadoes. A lot of the time, you don't have advanced warning on a tornado. It just comes out of nowhere and everything is gone. So that's just my little bit to share, but I'm happy to be back here with everyone.
Thank you.
That's very good. Yeah. So this re ta nga tsu tini do mo la wa na yi do wa. Ji me ta wa tini kha ko ri ma to wa ta ngarang kang ba na pe permanent ri do zam di na. Ha sa ka ni do wa.
Yeah, and clearly your understanding of impermanence has helped you to weather that difficulty, that hardship that might be much more difficult for somebody else, and somebody who, as you mentioned, loses their house. Imagine, without any real kind of deep understanding of impermanence, how incredibly um, difficult that and how much suffering that must bring. Mhm.
Okay.
Hi, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can't hear.
This is Steve.
I think they said Steve is trying to speak. But
Yeah, I heard this is Steve. It was very faint, but um,
Try it again. Hi, can you hear me now?
sort of.
Very, very weak, or
No, now it's better.
now it's better?
Hmm.
Okay. Uh, as most of you know, Kathy and I suffered greatly through the, at least temporary loss use of our house because of flooding. And it was rather a shock because we've been in our house for 42 years,
Mm.
which is a lifetime for some people. um, but we're very fortunate to find friends. In this particular case, Damien, who was lending us his home, and Melanie's house, technically. Uh, and I just want to bring up one idea, basically, which is that through suffering, from suffering, also can come much closer and lasting benefit. Um, and in this case, for us, living closer to Drumur, spending more time here physically, is going to be a great benefit, I believe, for
Mm.
us. I hope also for the Sangha. And it would not have been possible without this drastic change for us. Um, but I also want to kind of make a comment about. Can you hear me? Can you can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's pretty faint.
Pretty faint.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, the examples of impermanence that you've had, for example, a pet's life and the change in a pet being born, dying, is seasons, for example, change from winter to spring to summer, fall. Uh, in my present state of mind, these changes are seeming very minor and almost every day, because I think what's actually happening is a change in the whole cycle of Earth, not just spring into summer, but the very nature of spring, the very nature of summer. And the Earth is changing at a rate now that kind of blows away all our periodic thinking of the seasons changing. We're now in a time of maybe permanent summer without the other seasons at all. Yeah, question is coming up. Will the earth itself, as we know it, survive? And will all species, including the human species, die out through this cycle, changing? And along with that, I just wanted to make one comment about the examples of impermanence. Most of them are coming as personal change, individual change. And I don't think there's enough discussion of the change for all of us, the change for others, of which there are many more, of course. Billions of people whose lives are changing at a faster and faster pace. And I don't know whether, I'm not even sure that Buddhism ultimately can answer the response, the appropriate response to changes of that nature. I guess that's my ultimate question. I mean, there is a tradition of kalpas, changing of kalpas, but without human beings, can there be meaningful changes of that sort?
Inada koti utak bangtalas tegarius ini kita kurang hambat data chung batla this berapa so ina yang ko ngaco di yang hambat this yang also two days ko to be use.
So first of all, he just wants to say he's really sorry about the impact that the storm had on your home, and that it was probably very destabilizing for you and Kathy, and so he's sorry to hear about that, but he's also like really, really happy that you're in a good situation now, and he knows that you'll be able to make all the repairs, and it will be good.
Tega na ita re ita nga son jurwa tem gore. Jurwa tem do gore. Ri thi na yang ta ko changma yang wo cho chang chang yin sa ma res. Tien du nga so ta ya ro ya do ro ya tin ko ji mix no re tin particular jo ni ta song gong ka la wor na tu jin pedep se ya di ta nam ju no in decreasing do chang chang ri la gu ro wa tin ma ri song do. That depends maybe Charlie or is human being also to believe still not taking on to some double so we got a young corner so not with the large young position what we grace.
So, and yes, to your point about all of the, really devastating changes, to the environment, the impact that humans are having right now on the earth, and there are a lot of changes, and there's a lot that is bad, but it is not all bad. There's also a lot of goodness in the world, and so it's really important to not just focus on the negative. And in fact, even though we are in a time of degeneration, or it's like we're in degenerate times, Lord Jigten Sumgun has said that degeneration, like the degeneration of the times, is not inevitable. So this is in terms of like Buddhist cosmology, that there are said to be periods of increase and periods of decrease. So periods where there's like degeneration and periods where there's kind of the opposite, sort of a flourishing of auspiciousness and good qualities and all of that. But Lord Jigten Sungren says that those periods it's not an inevitability and it's not fixed, that even though we might be in a period of degeneration or in a decreasing time, that it depends upon the collective kind of goodwill and intentions and virtue of the beings of that time. So even though things are decreasing, they can turn around, in other words, that it depends on the kind of spiritual evolution and knowledge of the beings of that time, that a period of decrease can change into a period of increase. Mhm. We have some music that's just turned on the next door.
That's okay. Diwali, we are here is the New Year, Nepali.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
This is Chris. I have a reflection of something that, has this teaching of impermanence has really helped me recently, because especially this teaching of there's the inner world impermanence, the impermanence of the self, and then thinking of the impermanence of the outer world. This has helped me a great deal, because I think, well, if I can't even change, or if I can't control my own body from changing, then how would I possibly expect to control the whole world? I mean, it's an absurd delusion to think that I can do this. And, with things like this election coming up, there's a palpable sense of like anxiety. Not just I have my own anxiety, but then I feel everybody else's anxiety as well. And so I think I go around, constantly thinking of ways, scheming of ways to control that. But then I think that's just ridiculous. That's absurd, because I can't control this, let alone that, because of this law of impermanence. This is just a fundamental law of the universe. I mean, in science, I'm a scientist. There's a law, I'm sure your dad, John, would be able to comment on this, that's called the second law of thermodynamics, this idea of entropy, this law that everything is constantly changing. And if the universe is changing, well, how could I ever expect to control that? I can't control that, let alone control my own atoms and molecules, etc. So that was just my reflection.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's very good. Yeah, that's that here wa. That's what you thought. The keche shot the terry, Chonla gide da chi yunjuro tanya de lela wazan yo maris. Inna tining at so chi mato ya telesano tana tene gangi yorwa. Tinditine. Teleta ko chi tanyom shashavina. Tene ngazo individually ten this lulu yorwa. Tinita ngazo chi tugu yona chi gorwa. Te hyangdi dewa song yorwa. Kesi juice yona jugure isrwa. Ina jutobiya kniba mivina tene hyagure simli chia yo maris. Tinditin ko den jutogu yona jugure jugumina tene. Ta tanyom hyagure tindi tiga na yike tangi kontiba na yabo chonga ko permanent mare. Tis tubo chongwina ya permanent mare. Tene ko njon rogwa. Tindi tene ko 조 체효들 알아서 수기다 저 달마 박지현을 차디 요리 드니 인디드니 심바자 첨부치 이러와 드니 accepting 세야 돼 베케치 뭐 쉬우래 드니드니 지 be happy 이러와 지당 가서 대송도와 다토나 happy 토토나 happy 대가나 이랑 individually 나나 happy 고 희나 happy 다 된대로 이제 그 샘스야 되고 powerful와 드는 받침
Nana happy. Got it. Didn't-
듣지 몰라 근데다
Uh, so yeah, very important and wonderful reflection. Thank you very much. That's exactly right. You know, we really can't control anything. And everything is changing all the time, all around us and inside us. And when we are unable to accept that, it brings so much difficulty, so much stress, so much hardship. And so in that recognition that you just articulated, there is some release and some ability to kind of have some equanimity, and that, you know, which then we are more relaxed, we're more at ease. You know, it isn't that we can't do anything. We can do, you know, there are some things that we can do to make a, you know, positive impact in the world, or whatever it is that we're wanting to change or control. If we're able to do something, then we do it. But if we are not able to do anything, if we're not able to you know, fix something, for instance, then there's no benefit in being upset about it. So actually, Shantideva has said that if there is some solution, if there's some difficulty, some hardship, and there's some solution that you can turn to benefit the situation, something you can do that can change or help, then you do it. But if you know, even in doing it, you can't change the situation, or if there isn't anything you can do to change or help the situation, then there's no benefit that comes from fixating on the inability to change it, or in being kind of upset about it, in other words. So you know, sometimes things are good, sometimes there are good things that come. Those good things are impermanent. Sometimes there are bad things that come. Those things are also impermanent. So we just become more open-minded and expansive, and ability to kind of weather these ups and downs without too much grasping or expectation. And we do what we can, and when we can't do anything, we also just accept you know, the situation. But mainly we're Dharma practitioners, so we know that so in being a Dharma practitioner, we always have like a practice having an expansive mind, an open mind, an expansive mind, and we practice being accepting of whatever comes. So, you know, it is said, like, if you meet with an enemy, you're happy. If you meet with a friend, you're happy. If you're sick, you're happy. Yeah.
One positive comment on the second law of thermodynamics is that it powers all of life, that the flow from order to chaos, we take advantage of from the flux of the sun, the constant streaming of energy into more chaotic or more diffuse expressions. Actually, life utilizes, and it creates order out of chaos. And so it's a very interesting thing that these sophisticated systems can actually temporarily use this second law of thermodynamics to actually counter it, brief, locally counter. It's very interesting. Okay.
In a race, yes. Then 야보지 용구요나 고 당보 두보 용그레스. 알와. 근데 거기 레요나 요아레스. 알와.
So I think so he said in relation to that, maybe it's like chaos transforming into, or I don't know exactly how he said it, but he said that it's often said that in order for things, like in order for something good to come, first things have to get a little bad. So like there's difficulty before that, or maybe there's chaos before there's order. And then he said there also, it is said there's, before you reach a mountain, there's a plain. Treve.
Yeah. So actually interesting, right?
Or
So
maybe a
this,
valley. I'm not
right? So this we thinking about, so only if you're good, right?
sure.
So if you don't have the bad difficulties, then there are no such things good thing either. So the difficulties is sign may become is good thing.
When there's difficulties, it might be a sign that something good is on the way.
Can you hear me, Virginia? Okay. I was reading this morning in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation on impermanence, and it was discussing something about 7 fires on the earth and 7 floods, and then the earth would be like destroyed by wind. Drupon, can you speak to that, please? What does that mean?
Really, 당가서들아 the sarsan rogre la wada 타마들라 sarsan rone 간디 sar원 로그스나 단대 니만 나기 근데 니만 등 향 그래스.
So this is speaking about
End of the card.
like the end. So in Buddhist cosmology, you have, and actually maybe we can just like put it in the context of like the Yar Mar Yang Dang. Okay.
So the end of complete end.
So there's these periods of time in which there's like the creation and the abiding and then the destruction of a universe. And so at the end of a universe, like at the end of a great kalpa, then the earth
also this entire kind of like earth or whatever this
the world systems will be destroyed. And so that is talking about at the very end how the destruction happens. So they say that finally there is a period where there's like a blazing of like kind of equivalent to our sun, 7 suns. So there's for the destruction of fire, and then Dini?
니마테 차차 해그레스 다나 니마 찍으러와 어떤 놈이더니 7 times harder. 진리치네 땅가서 the earth 걸 매로 매만로
So what happens is that the sun,
according to this
according to cosmology, like, or the text, that the sun becomes 7 times hotter. It's like the equivalent of a blazing of 7 suns. And then the entire earth will become engulfed in flames.
다 뒤슈글라더니 다 잡아자 그랬어.
And then after that, there's
But
like
that
a
can't
deluge.
this sort of like left over, maybe like ash, earth.
So then maybe the earth just becomes a bunch of ash.
이나트네 추직레스 추dun요 말이야 추직레스.
And there's one
샤르와지
big
양이 샤스.
flood.
된장마다 한다 오지.
And then it just like clears it out completely, all that ash.
메디 추직라 따디 따 롱제 기트네 blow up. 된 남과 동바코나.
And then all the ash like blows up into space or blows out into space, and then it just becomes empty space.
That's the end of Karbarova.
So that's at the end of the Kalpa.
Hina Karbatella Tandamanda Yoris Karbatella Tene Geba Mambon Gurgur Yoris Karba Chawa Latine Varkesia Geba Nishu Karba Chabala Geba Nishu Tene Karba Nebala Karba Varke Nishu Tene Geba Distraction Varke Nishu Tene Jackson Tamazan Chani Tene Yang Varke Nishu Tene Yang Risakarova Tene Yang Karba Yang increase Chagrata Varke Jachula Tene Karba Jiris
Barka Jachu. Yeah. So these are incredible. Like a kalpa is a very long period of time. One great kalpa is what we're talking about. And within a great kalpa, you have kind of intermediate kalpas. And within those, you also have what he was speaking to, these periods of increase and these periods of decrease. So in one great kalpa, which is also like in an extraordinary long period of time, there are 20 intermediate kalpas that comprise the period of kind of the formation of the universe and the world. And then there's 20 intermediate kalpas in which there's the abiding of the universe. And then there's 20 intermediate kalpas that comprise the destruction of the universe, which is what we're talking about here. And then there are 20 intermediate kalpas of just space, nothing, kind of like an intermediary period. Before the cycle repeats itself, and you have the formation of another universe. And so one great kalpa is comprised of 80 intermediate kalpas.
Can you hear us, Drupon? Can you please confirm the impermanence 2-day retreat times? No changes? Question mark.
Yeah. What can you Tsepa kain sinangato tindati yang
Well, we are the
retreat. Yeah, the zoyurwa yini da gangshi kain sinati chai. So no, fortunately that is we don't know.
But we keep going to these teachings, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, people are waiting to buy airline tickets.
Okay. So we'll try to get some clarity about that soon.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A quick question. One of the things I think Drupon mentioned this week and then last week we talked about is that the mind had this ability to be boundless when it's in a good place and really be expansive, which is something I've been sort of playing with all week. But I notice when I'm anxious or more fearful or something's going on, my mind has a tendency to get much more smaller and closed, and thereby the sort of afflictive emotions become more sticky or more close bound because it's just less space. So I wasn't sure if you had any recommendations on how to go back to this sort of like expansive version when the mind feels like it gets quite tiny.
So kongi chibuchirang de penangazo nangbechu chekiniana deni simja chimbo zo gogare la yorwa deni kong yang rangi nyamyong la be gare de tes chebar tong yorwa samsam la simja chimbo yore deni denda yana tes atolo yorwa inyang samsam la pena kong shenang yona deni simdal yona deni de sim jachung tes chung chung chagirwa tene ja chung chung yena tene nyo momba parya lela bodawo gayan sana tenda de pena space yumarwa tene garsi pena sim chung chung chadna tene de chimpo ja chimpo yangchar zoyagi tapshi mixo che yure
Ti kodina ti kehira yo marisina ti kotini ta koji takwaram ki tini yung marwa nga so pena changjo sem pina takwaram changjo sem chiegi mari samsa takwaram ki sem tini chenpo chagi yo mari samsa gomja vina samsa yago chagiri yago chag marwa tini ta ti zo chehyo ti chi otana sem chenpo chando sambe kabla chi attachment mewa che tiga na yi kita chi feeling no feeling no ta sem chenpo mendo nyongmo bo mondo no sambu yo na ya ti kabla ya ko kasen na chi sem che tang wori mewa o sem chungbo rindo somebody member ko kasen tonda kona reality ko sem chenpo chungjung chano ya hira yo maris tiga lo ta nga sem chung ri ha ro tne zam gu ge sem maris tri ke zam ma ta wa ke chen boris
so he said you know, first thing is to kind of accept, right? Because you know, we again, impermanence, we can't expect to always have an expansive mind state. So, you know, and it's okay because there's fluctuation. Like, you know, we don't, if we have, sometimes we just give rise to bodhicitta, but we can't sustain that always, you know, it's there and then it disappears or it kind of, you know, sometimes we have an expansive mind, sometimes we have a narrow mind, sometimes we are affliction free, sometimes we have a strong, you know, upwelling of affliction. And, you know, and so the important thing is when we are in, you know, if our, you know, sometimes he said meditation goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well, you know, when we're experiencing those like more favorable or pleasant mind states, it's important not to become attached, not to have too much attachment or expectation or you know, pressure on ourselves to always be in that state. And so if, you know, we have you know, if afflictive emotions are present, if our mind is not so expansive, if we feel really narrow, you know, to not become too worried, you know, not to not feel like it's a problem or to be worried about it, because actually in reality, you know, there is no like, you know, it's not that there's like the mind is expansive and then it's narrow. So mainly, you know, to just not have too many concepts about it is very important. Like to just accept and experience with awareness, like whatever we're experiencing when we're experiencing it. Anyway.
I have a reflection. I have a reflection.
A question or?
A reflection.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Time passes like a river, never ceasing. Rivers flood and mountains fall. All who live will one day die. Nothing does not change. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow remains always beyond reach and never guaranteed. The present moment is all we have until it is gone, having passed into yesterday. Now is the time to practice Dharma for the sake of all sentient beings, from now until samsara is emptied.
Thank you.
That's very good. Thank you, Kinel. That's very good.
I can share it in the chat if people would like.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Are you in the WhatsApp group too?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
之前那些请这个动了。
I can share it too. Any closing first here? Okay, so we can close with dedication. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings, samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drupon Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be happy.